welcome to another episode. Today my guest is Richard Fortin. Richard, did I spell the last name right?
That's right, Richard. Well, I'm a francophone, so we say Fortin,
Okay,
like
that's
Martin. But Martin would be Martin, so it's Fortin in English.
Fortin. I get
But
you.
my French ears, they say Fortin.
Fine, I get it. So Richard is the CEO of RFPMedia. Richard, welcome to the call. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about RFPMedia. What does it entail? What do you guys do there? If you can just walk us through.
Well, you see, I was living downtown Toronto and I was working actually as a political advisor. This was like 10 years ago. So I was always really into comms because, of course, politics revolves around communication, trying to get your message out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit of my background when I decided that it'd be really nice to move back up north. I'm in North Bay, Ontario, which is about 3.5 hour to 4 hour drive north of Toronto. So a little bit in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, what am I going to do to create my own job? But not just that, create jobs for the next 30 years in this community. If I'm not going to cut a tree and I'm not going to mine,
Yeah.
so it's not going to be mill or mining, what am I going to do? And communications obviously is a big word. There's a lot to it, but I knew it would be probably a communications type company. When I really got into figuring out, well, what's the niche, what's the product that I'm going to develop for the rest of my life, I realized that video production was huge, in terms of labor requirement, the time of how much it takes to do it when you're doing different types of films, whether it's a feature or even if it's a smart commercial. How much goes into that video production. And when I realized that I love these podcasts and this, I've always wanted to be in the music business deep down in my heart since I'm a little boy. So I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice if you want to do great video, you also need great audio. And we want to produce everything in-house because I'm trying to build a business for the future and I want to create jobs. So RFP Media was designed to try to create these jobs in communications, which I knew realized needed a lot of video and needed a lot of audio production capability. The luck I had was that at Canadore College, which is our community college here in North Bay, they have about 5,000 students from out of town that come here, which for a town of 50,000 is a significant population. Now, those students are coming from around the world. It really is amazing, and increasingly so. And they're coming to study in one of the programs that they've developed is post-production and video production and this entertainment industry stuff. So all this talent is coming to North Bay, this little town in the middle of nowhere, to learn about post-production, and they have great facilities and great infrastructure. And I was looking around and I said, well, who's going to build the business to hire these young up-and-comers so that they can then go on to work for, well, whoever, like whether it's a feature film or a big company, we need a foot in the door. And so my company became, the idea for RFP Media was, let's solve the problem everybody wants to fix right now. How do I get on social media? How do I make it affordable? And how do I make it sticky and impactful? That's going to take some video content. My company helps you bridge that gap because it does take a little bit of knowledge for editing. It does take posting. It takes knowledge, and people don't always want to do that. So how can I create a business model where I help people produce the media and I help people understand these new, apps on this very powerful phone that we're all transformed by in our everyday life, and how do we get our message out on this? So that's what RFP Media does. I try to be a solution provider for people who are looking for marketing expertise, with their social media, in particular with video and audio content creation. To speak on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun stuff where we need some videos to make people laugh, smile, and feel connected.
So you mentioned that the college that specialized in the program. So why is that college? Why all the talents coming to that college? Why is that specifically not other colleges? Is there a reason for that? And I think that also solves the labor problem as well, because you need a talent to produce those videos, right?
That's exactly the key, right? And you're right to pick up that the college was so valuable. And the reason is they invested a bunch of money into a really fancy Adobe certified sound room with 17, they actually invested millions of dollars at the college to put in the infrastructure so that if film productions were coming in, if to train these people that are coming, they would be working on the most state-of-the-art equipment. So they have the college took a strategic. Sheridan also has a good media arts program. I mean, there's colleges take different, tactics in order to attract different sectors. And thankfully in North Bay, Canada College attacked that sector. So that investment happened like say 5 years ago. Now they're all built up and they're starting to produce these graduates. But what does the college need? It needs to put those students in job experiences. Work experiences are the key, right? And so my company really is fitting in well with giving those students the first place to get their co-ops and their feet wet with actual jobs. And the college helps me because I don't think I could do this. I don't think I would have the supply of talent to do it, without the college. So for me, it's kind of worked out in an interesting way. It's a question I always ask my dad, who's also an entrepreneur, is at the end of the day, does Apple exist because of Silicon Valley or does it exist because of Steve Jobs? You need Silicon Valley to be there for Steve Jobs to come in to do what he did. But without a guy like him, a maniac like him, who's just going to drive the business, you could be in Silicon Valley.
It's not doing that.
It's not doing that. So for me, it's like I see myself like, okay, great. We have an institution that's trying to set up infrastructure. But unless you have an entrepreneur that wins, that goes and gets jobs, that convinces people that you have the talent to do world-class work, the college will just graduate students that go and move back to Toronto maybe. And as much as that's great, I'm trying to keep some in North Bay because, share the love.
I see. Interesting. So let's talk about the state of video. I think that's that's probably the critical. So on a business side, where do you see on Canadian businesses, where the what's the state of video are right now, before COVID and what anything these changes in the COVID and our business embarking on a video, because that is during the COVID only way to communicate with the people has been Zoom calls or team calls. And it's a lot of people was shy of coming on cameras. People don't want to record themselves. And some business leaders have to enforce that. Hey, listen, you got to turn your camera on if you want to go on a Zoom call. So we've gone through that hesitation on a camera, and I think a lot of people are comfortable for being on a camera now. But what are your thoughts on that? Are the business are using the video to their advantage, or they're still hesitant about it a little bit?
Well, I think now it's been so long that there's no choice, and there's no going back either, because people, we've been in this now over a year, right? So our habits have really changed. We may not even realize how much our habits have changed because it's happened over a year. But I can't imagine, and you could probably you probably have a similar experience, that there aren't some things you aren't doing more efficiently right now. I think COVID accelerated our need to be comfortable in this new digital reality. And obviously Zoom has done very well to make sure we're all on their thing doing it that way. But at the end of the day, the technology isn't going anywhere, just like this phone isn't going anywhere. So might as well figure out Instagram, because I don't think Instagram's going anywhere. It'll evolve, it'll change. It's not going anywhere. So much like that, I think having meetings like this and interacting in this new way, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I do think, however, that there's even more value that's going to be, and people are going to be so hungry for in-person events and meeting people and seeing each other again when this all opens up again, that I think it's going to be both. I think you're going to have a return to the importance of seeing people and making connections. But there's no doubt that the efficiencies we've all felt them and lived with them and have gotten over some of the challenges. So I think that will just even keep accelerating and being easy. In terms of my business, what's interesting is what happens is often a Zoom call like this is great. We do it in our home office or in our office and it's fine. But sometimes for an AGM or for a special presentation, I'm working a lot with school boards right now for their evening when they talk to parents. And what we're doing is we're helping them do multi-camera live stream. So So, with a simple switcher,
Mhm.
3, 4 camera angles, even people in the same area but different rooms who are doing different things. Now, what I'm finding I'm getting some business doing that I wasn't before was literally running a live stream for Zoom, where now the entrepreneur or the chair of the meeting just shows up. The cameras are set from a couple different angles, and you could really you create more like a TV show out
Mhm.
of out of everything, because there's a bit more and it's surprisingly affordable. Like,
Mhm.
the switchers aren't really expensive. Like, the technology is getting so affordable that we can all do it. The challenge is the know-how.
Yeah.
So with the school boards, for example, what happened with COVID is I started doing live streams for them
Mhm.
because they were more complex. Well,
Mhm.
when they saw that it was complex but not that complex,
Mhm.
they said, "Hey, Rich, can we get you now? We'll buy the equipment because we realize that this isn't going anywhere, and we're going to use the switcher. And there are advantages to having a little bit more camera angles, and maybe you want a
Mhm.
top angle, and you know." But we want you to teach us how to do it. And this is the thing, right? And the vlogs and YouTube help us do this, is if we can take time to learn and do it once or twice, then we have the system for the rest of time.
You can do over and over.
Right. And I know in our prep conversation you had talked to me about your idea of having a studio, that a
Yeah.
live stream studio where, we've seen famous people turn their studios into shows, and those shows turn into really powerful
Mhm.
tribes of people, like-minded people who need to connect. And the way to connect is to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and we can do it, and it doesn't have and it's not your whole business, right?
Mhm.
Like, you're running your business, and you can have a little studio where you drop in, record your
Yeah.
thing, make it look damn good,
Mhm.
and come out with this YouTube show once a week, twice a week, whatever the rhythm you decide.
Mhm.
And you're in business, and
Yeah.
boy, is that platform incredible.
Yeah.
Like, for you to be able to talk to your audience
Yeah.
directly.
You bring a lot of transparency to the business, But what I'm hearing, other side you mentioned that is, so not only people's behavior change, they're a little bit more comfortable at recording video, but quality of video production has gone much higher during this COVID time, because now it's technology is affordable, and you can produce very quality shows and videos in very cost effective ways. So, the quality of like a TV shows or movies, you're not getting to the same level, but at least you're increasing the regular video recorded quality is to the much higher level due to this technology changes.
Right. And so, but it's the same old thing, right? You can have all the technology in the world, if you don't have an interesting story, or you don't have
Yeah.
somebody with a little charisma and who can draw us in
Mhm.
with what they're talking about. There's so much content. I saw a stat yesterday, but now I'm going to mess it up, so I'm not going to say it. But it was how many videos are uploaded a day now. When you think of the hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of videos, when you
Yeah.
think of how succinct they're getting now with Instagram and TikTok being even more popular.
Mhm.
Um, there's a
So,
ton of content. So it's actually, yes, the quality is going up, the competition is going up for the attention.
yeah.
So now we have to be smart, right?
You got to be creative.
Be creative, be smart. And that you can never offshore.
Mhm.
And I would argue that in business, like the camera might be made somewhere where it's more cost efficient to make it, but
Mhm.
the content that we're looking at on this phone
So
will
it has to be
always be
original.
it will always be cultural. It will always be local,
Mhm.
because that's culture. It speaks to us, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the key. That's the key for an entrepreneur too, that wants to get his message out on whatever it is, whether it's internally or externally.
Mhm.
And that's
So
the other thing. The
yeah.
video can be used just as effectively. I think you were telling me that you often send messages as video instead of an email.
Oh, I do all the time. I mean, much effective. You can communicate in a video a lot more effectively than just typing a few sentences, right? So, and especially that attention span we have from people, much rather look at a short video than going through the longer emails, right? So, I usually use a rule of thumb, the 5 sentences. If I have to explain something more than 5 sentences, it needs a video.
Yeah. And
So
so who are your favorite video guys to watch?
I,
Or who?
I watch a lot of guys, Cardone, mentioned that we do a lot of 10x, the videos, I watch quite a bit, there's, a lot of video channels that, Luis Osa watch, there's a few, there's something to learn from all of these channels, right? You're learning, I got better on recording videos by watching these guys, and they've been doing it for so many years. So there's so much to learn from these guys, how they interview, how they record video, how they publish it. So I learned enough for me to get going, but definitely there's a next step to it. But let me ask you this. So I know you guys produce videos, you produce a lot of content. How big is that part of your business, and how big is the education piece? Because I know the education piece has to be much bigger than that, right? Because you have to educate people on a video as well. You have to train people. You have to show them, like people like me, we're not expert at videos, but we need to record videos. So we need expert like you. Hey, listen, what should I do? What do we do for lighting? What do we do for audio? Like, how big is the education piece, and how big is producing videos for people?
Well, it's very interesting because that's what's happening is we're starting by producing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they see, and it depends on what they want exactly, but what I'm open to and what I believe, everybody wants is to be able to control it as much themselves too. And sometimes it's just that little bottleneck of one thing that stumps a person from finishing the job before that video gets that we can help them with. Yeah. So what I do a lot is I train. So once they see what we're doing, if they say, oh, well, I'm going to get my own camera and I'm going to set up or build my own set and do this. And once they have their set and everything's hooked up, it's actually pretty easy to run. It's it can be taught. It can definitely be taught. And we do that. So even with these school boards I was telling you, they were coming in, we were doing stuff for them. Then they ended up getting the equipment themselves. Then we trained them on their equipment, which was very similar to our equipment. And now they're running multicam stream jobs themselves for, it's become extremely efficient for them. And then what they do is they send us the stuff they don't want to edit, because editing ends up being sometimes, if it's not simple, and so they'll do the simple stuff themselves. And then when they want the, fancy intros and outros and in between bits, anything that takes a bit more, knowledge, artistry, then they say, hey, can you give us that? And then it's perfect. It's easy. We give them what they need, and we're doing more and more of that.
Yeah.
But I've been in full on incorporated running this, for 3 years now, and it's changed so much since then from what I expected to what is. And they say entrepreneurship's like the plane takes off and you're building it as it's in the air or whatever.
You jump off the plane and you figure out how you're gonna land in midair.
I can definitely say that's kind of the situation with me. I thought it would go this way, but then you react to the jobs you get too, right? So what I'm getting from COVID is that, yes, we'll hire you to do it, to show us and give us an example, maybe a pilot episode or a pilot episode 1 show. But then how can you train me so that I don't have to come and spend an arm and a leg every time, and it can be something I can reproduce over and over. Yeah. Because we know that marketing isn't going to be this flash in the pan, like, I'm going to create some ad that goes viral and my business explodes. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be day in, day out, and consistency and all the cliches. And that's what we try to help people achieve.
Yeah, it takes time. Anything in the marketing, you need about 6 months to 12 months just to see that how it's working. Then by the time you figure out, but the piece you mentioned, editing and production, that's the most time-consuming piece. I mean, recording videos doesn't take you an hour, 2 hours. You're recording video. But what I find is when you get to editing piece or you get to production piece, that's the most time consuming. Now you have to go through the whole video. You have to edit here and there. That's what most time consuming process to me. That's what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not necessarily what people like. If you want to be doing a bit like editing is tricky. It's a different skill set. People don't even realize how much goes into it until you start doing it and you go, oh my God. And we're so used to seeing high quality fast cuts,
Yeah.
just TV and Netflix. Just the quality of what our eye is used to seeing is so high that
Hmm.
often we get discouraged, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'll never be able to make it look like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are tricks, and the other thing is you hire young people that are hungry. Like that's what I'm doing is even if they didn't come to the college, I know I just talked about how important the college was, but some of the best people that are working with me didn't study it
Hmm.
at school. They're just passionate about it. They do personal projects and then they get really into it. And if you're talented, the degree's not going to be the thing. It's going to be how do you
Hmm.
work on the job and are you passionate?
Yeah.
And so what I'm finding is that I'm finding young, passionate people because there's a lot of young people want to be doing this stuff.
Hmm. Interesting. Is interesting to them
Huge
because
interest.
they're on social media all the time. They're consuming the content all the time. So wouldn't it be better if they know how to produce as well?
Right. Everybody wants to have a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And I think everybody should have one.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a platform there. The world is on. There's people, younger people, I'm finding now. That's all they watch.
Yeah.
Like they don't even
Videos.
cable isn't like YouTube or another app.
Hmm.
But there's no cable TV. Like they're
Yeah.
not. It's not that
Yeah.
interesting to them. So I just think that as a business, it's
Hmm.
like you could not be there, but that's where the action is going.
Hmm.
Might as well figure out how to
Get
do
there.
it and do it bite size.
Yeah, that's a difficult, that's where we've been on this journey for a while. But business leaders you've been talking to, if somebody president of the company, or especially in the service industry, not being on a YouTube or not being, talking about your company is a big cost to you. You definitely wanna get there. So do you, the people you interact with, what are the obstacles you're hearing from them? Like why they're not going on a YouTube? What do you pushback you hear that? What's the reason for them not to take on a video recording?
Yeah, I think it's the time. I think at the end of the day, it is that editing part. And how do you get somebody to, and you have to trust. You also have to be willing to be a little vulnerable, to put
Hmm.
yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know, I always laugh when you look at somebody's, say, their Instagram profile. And if every single picture is a selfie of them, looking, doing the selfie thing, you think to
Yeah.
yourself, what an egomaniac,
Yeah.
like they're just, oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Now if you look at somebody's profile and they're not able to put a picture of themselves, wouldn't that tell you that that's just as much of an ego trip?
Hmm.
Because you don't have you can't put yourself out there. Now I'm saying that poking a little bit, but my point is we have to be willing to put ourselves out there. And you know what, when I edit videos with people, when they come on, there isn't many people, I won't say never, but there aren't many people that when they see themselves and hear themselves, they think, oh God, I'm perfect.
Wow.
Like I'm so lovely to look at and I sound great and everything. Even though we might, the people's natural instinct when they see themselves is like, yeah, I
Yeah.
do that all the time. But you have to get over that. And
Hmm.
a CEO and a boss and somebody who's in charge of things often doesn't like to appear vulnerable because they have to make decisions and people have to believe in what they're doing. And, I get it.
Hmm.
But it's also the realness and the authenticity that we know actually works. So
Hmm.
you can't be out there and just be so stiff
Hmm.
and not yourself because you have to be fearless with yourself. And before we got on recording, we were talking about how some of our heroes, when we watch them do their thing, one of mine that I was saying was Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, who has a very successful social media marketing company in the US and the world. What I love about this guy, I mean, he's crazy, and a bunch of them you almost have to be to put yourself out there to the extent he would, but he's fearless with
Hmm.
who he is, and you can judge him and you can not understand him, and that's okay with him, but he's going to be fearless with saying what it is that he wants to say at that time. And
Hmm.
that's the thing that people sense in him, even though you might not agree. Well, he's convincing and he's interesting
Hmm.
because he's himself.
Hmm.
So if a swear comes out, then it comes out because that's how he talks. Or if
Yeah.
and I think at
It's
the end of the
tough.
day, that's what CEOs and business leaders need to be willing to do.
Hmm.
And it's a bit counterintuitive because you can't be so protective. You have to be open and willing to share, share your personality.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think though that once you get doing it, I do think that it surprises, it's surprising how effective and even how powerful it is.
Yeah. Every interview I go through or every episode I record, I'm always surprised, how much I learn, I take away from that one discussion. I learn from every discussion I have. So CEO or president of the company, opportunity for them to learn is a huge opportunity. I underestimated kind of that opportunity. It's a learning opportunity as well, not only talking, but eh, you know, but you have to, people buy the brand they like, people buy, where people connect with the brand these days. So you, as a company leader, you need to be talking to people, you need to put yourself out of it. But let's talk about the fear that you mentioned. What does that come from? Does that come from, how do you get over that? Is it part of your story that you're not comfortable with the story that you're telling? Or is it the fear is from that you don't know the content, or you just don't want to put yourself out? What do you think what drives the fear in business leaders?
It's an excellent question. I'm just coming back right now from an interview I did for the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. There was talking to an employer that has a very successful plumbing and electrical company, and he recruits a lot from the high schools. And so we were interviewing him.
Hmm.
And during the conversation, entrepreneurs put their life in their business.
Hmm.
This guy he spoke so well, but honestly, as soon as I asked him about like the culture of the company, there was such emotion and heart. And it was just we were just three people in the room, but he started tearing up. Like he started, and that's the thing that's hard, is
Hmm.
that again, like and he's a strong man in his 50s running the show. He's like this very successful.
Hmm.
And here he is on camera weeping, talking to me about how important, it was talking to me about his company.
Hmm.
And so might not be able to use that. He might not be comfortable sharing that, but that happens like that, and so you have to, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's going to say, I'm going to put myself out there, a lot happens sometimes that you don't react. So you have to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone. Now, the interview ended up great with this gentleman, and it's going to be amazing. And when he looks back on it, he's going to love it, especially in 5 years. You know what I find? Nobody likes recording. Like at the time of the recording, we're all stressed out, and
Yeah.
we get. But I guarantee you, and even you with this show you're creating right now and everything you're doing, you're going to look back on this,
Hmm.
and you're going to be amazed how much you improve over time.
Hmm.
But you're going to be really proud that you had that photo, that you had that conversation
Hmm.
on the road. I think there's no doubt that later these assets we create, media assets that tell our story,
Hmm.
they're hard to do in the moment. They're even hard to pay for because it does
Yeah.
cost, it does
Hmm.
invest in it. But down the road, it comes back. The dividends do come back. They really are assets
Hmm.
that can keep paying off. But it's important to do it right. So I think the risk for the entrepreneurs is making themselves look a bit too vulnerable. B is also like they don't know the cost. Like, so if you tell them this is going to cost $10,000 to produce or $20,000 to produce, well, how many more, hard drives am I going to sell because I created a $10,000 video? How do you show the return on investment?
Hmm.
And is it Cardone that has this thing where he's like, if you're not willing to invest in advertising, you don't get it?
Yeah.
It's did I see something about
Yeah.
him recently?
He's
Like,
always talking, you gotta invest in,
yeah, you got to invest in it. And it's not going to be a direct necessary ROI you can measure,
you don't need to measure. Well, his approach is you don't need to measure. It doesn't need to give you the return. What it's giving you is pushing you forward in a business where you need to get to.
Right.
So,
So if you're an entrepreneur and you have to decide on your $20,000 spend or your 100, whatever the amount is, how likely are you to say, well, I'm going to put myself out there with that money because this is what it takes, and sometimes without a push, without somebody to say, hey, actually, you would be great.
Hmm.
Like, and kind of give them that chance, that runway to try it.
Hmm.
That's the challenge. How do you
Hmm.
get them to try it?
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
know?
what's your take on quality versus quantities? If I were chose to push more quantity, do I sacrifice a little bit of quality? Or the video has to be this quality all the time. So what do you take on? Is it quantity more important, or it has to be a good quality that quantity doesn't matter?
Of course, I want to answer both, but
Okay.
if I have to choose one, because you're giving me an or,
Yeah.
so I would say actually quantity. Should I practice my own preaching here? Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm finding that I was setting really ambitious targets even for my vlog. Like I'm
Hmm.
going to vlog 3 times a week or something. But then if I wasn't hitting it, I was falling behind, and then it doesn't. So I decided once a week and really commit to the once a week, and then do it, that much. Now I'm doing a long form episode once a week, which means on my social media, I can go promote that all in smaller bits. You can create highlight reels. It's about repurposing content,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
we're going to talk here for half an hour, 45 minutes, but you could create content for 3 days in snippets
Part of the videos, yes.
with
Hmm.
videos. And that's sort of the art of
Hmm.
repurposing for the native language of whatever platform we're putting this on.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, it's that's what's I kind of lost my train of thought there when I
Yeah,
was.
when I was early on doing that, I was trying to be very good at quality. I want to produce, 4K videos. I want to make sure that, the lighting is right. So I was consuming so much time on a quality, but I was short on a quantity. I couldn't do that every week. So I
Yeah.
simply said, listen, I had quality. I wanted certain quality, but it may not meet 100% of it, maybe 80% of it, but I need to produce on a frequent basis the contents, right? So that's
Right.
what I said. Quantity for me, what I do in a business is more important to get the message out than the quality of it.
And I think with the quantity, you end up getting quality.
You learn how to produce better quality over
Exactly.
time.
Because how
Yeah,
do you get good?
yeah.
It's
We're doing it
practice.
over and over.
And
Yeah,
and you said, how does a CEO get over that fear? It's like lifting a weight. You get stronger by lifting more weights. I
yeah.
mean, or going for a run. You look how much better you are if you do it consistently for 6 months. I mean, it just happens, right?
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of us, Gary Vaynerchuk Vaynerchuk, he always says, when anybody talks about procrastination, or he always says, you're just afraid. You could blame, there's a million things to blame, but you're still just afraid to put it out there, if you're concerned with quality. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you say something smart, it's going to hit me right here. The pixelation on the video doesn't really matter. Now,
Mhm.
for different things that, all within context. You always want to have high quality. If you have a great camera, shoot with a great camera. Like, never sacrifice the quality. Always go with the best quality.
Mhm.
But the guys that are really doing well, sometimes you look at their videos, you're like, anybody could do that.
Yeah. It's just a cell phone. Just record it with just a cell
Yeah.
phone, walking around, then record it.
And you have guys like, the guys shooting videos for Drake and The Weeknd. These guys are shooting these videos on phones.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you see their rig, and they're sponsored by Samsung, and they're shooting the video that's looks epic
Yeah.
on a phone.
Cell phone technology's got so, and look, evolved so much over the years that even I look at iPhone 12, or, the newer Samsung phones, the camera on these the phones are very into, you can record pretty much every mode you can think of. It's not same level as what you guys do in quality wise, but it has enough to get, produce high quality videos.
Right. And I think people are really smart instinctively to know when something is set up. So one of the costs of high quality is that it smells corporate. It smells like, it
Yeah.
doesn't smell cool.
Hmm.
But if it's real, and it's maybe just somebody doing this, but it's real, and that guy is authentic and saying something that connects, that can go way more, that's way more valuable, interesting, and powerful, impactful
Mhm.
than having something that's perfect pan of sunsets and sunrises shot at golden hour that make you look like
Yeah.
something maybe you're not,
Yeah.
because we smell it, because we see so much now.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
know when somebody's real.
Yeah, I've seen some, CIOs. I follow a couple of them. Ryan Serhant is one of them. You hire the video the guy as your assistant, and whatever you're doing during the day, the guy just records the videos all day for you. So yeah, definitely there's a cost to it. You hire an employee that walks with you all day and just recording a video. Another approach is just pull your camera out, just record what you're going through, and just post that online, right? So there's a
Yeah.
couple of ways of doing that. So when you're starting out the business or starting a video, I think the first step is simply record yourself when you're going through a meeting center, all day.
And the other thing that's interesting that I noticed myself too is, like, we like the behind the scenes as it's happening. Like, I'm even noticing that, for example, you see Instagram stories,
Mhm.
they last 24 hours. Snapchat lasts 24 hours. What is that about, really? Why is that so new and happening for those companies, and why are they doing that?
Mhm.
Because when we know that it's in real time and it's not set up, when we know that that's Jennifer Lopez holding her phone, and it's
Yeah.
not Jennifer Lopez dressed up and directed by Puff Daddy to dance that way,
Mhm.
if we're a Jennifer Lopez fan, I don't know why I picked her. I guess
You go with that.
it's not a bad image. It's not a bad, I'm okay with it. It's just
Yeah.
funny. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
So you want
there's
to the real life, what they go through in real life, instead of just made up
right.
on a camera.
And an entrepreneur is dealing with hot potatoes all day. You can't
Mhm.
really set up your video shoot if you want to be in, like, really
Mhm.
showing people how it works. You catch gold when it happens. Like, you catch those golden moments when it happens.
Mhm.
You couldn't plan it at 6 in the morning when you're meditating, planning your day, but at 11:30 when that thing happened and now you're revved and you just, and you have an insight, or you have somebody interesting you want to introduce to your audience, because you're always thinking about how you're teaching people how to do things.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of being able to pull out your phone and just having that habit and realizing that's worth a lot, like,
Yeah.
for your audience to get to know you.
And that is difficult piece to get, part to get used to. When you're dealing with the situations all day, you make a decision, who's going to remember to pull my camera? Hey, let me record this, what's going on, right? Because you're not right in a situation you're trying to, and that's, I find personally, I'm not used to that, and that's a difficult piece to get used to. And I've been trying for the last couple of months, but that's something I forget. Every time I'm dealing with something, oh, I wanted to record, but you're dealing with that other person. It's very hard to say, look, can I record a video? And I think that's a difficult piece for me, especially that to record that, when you're going through something.
Yeah. What I'm finding too is, what I do then is I have a content calendar where I'm kind of planning, okay, I know on Valentine's Day I'm going to want to make a post about, the benefits of my product for
Mhm.
lovers. Let's just say. So we know on the 14th we can pre-produce something, and on the 16th I'll have something, and on the 19th I'll have something that, my team and me, we know where we're going, and I'm going to fill in the gaps with this fun stuff. And even if I don't get to it because I'm too busy, it's okay, because I still have my pillars during the week of content that is planned,
See.
more conversations like this. So it's about kind of not going all one way or all the other. It's kind of
Mhm.
both. I also think, though, in terms of understanding the market as a leader, I know you're busy, everybody's busy, but how do you understand Instagram, for example? Because I would say that's the number one,
Mhm.
influencer type app right now in my market. I would say Instagram is just killing it, in the
Mhm.
ways where the attention is. How do you understand Instagram and that whole generation that is their TV,
Mhm.
if you don't use it once in a while?
Yeah.
And how do you use it if you're not like, you just have to do it. The only
Yeah.
way to learn is to do it. And by the way, the app changes as soon as you got it figured out. They update the app and there's a new change.
Yeah.
So there's no advantage to I mean, we're all in this new territory.
You're always in a new territory
We're
because it's
always
changing all the time. Yeah.
right. So we have to just say, hey, I'm gonna do some stuff I know, and every day or every 3 days, I'm gonna try to go outside my comfort zone. What is a reel? What's the difference between a story, a reel, and a post on Instagram?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that as a CEO, and I could explain it to you on the whiteboard, or we can sit here and talk about it. But really, the only way is to take the phone out, do it a couple times, and then they go, "Oh, that's not so bad. I could do that," or you know what I mean. And then it's just creating that habit.
I see. So you saying that that even Instagram has more attention than even the Facebook? You find more people engage in that compared to Facebook or Twitter or other channels?
It obviously depends on where you're targeting, because there's it depends.
Mhm.
But I would say yes, Instagram is now number one. Like, because there's a whole bunch of people. I would say I'm going younger now. I'm going into maybe not like yet. Well, I ask people all the time. This is my favorite questions anytime to anybody is, hey, what are
Yeah,
you really using?
I
Like,
see.
what are you really on right now? Like, are you
Mhm.
snapping? Are you TikToking? Are you on Twitter? Do you know how
Mhm.
many people you think are on, like, some people don't use Twitter at all. Some people are only on Twitter, you know? What I'm saying with Instagram, yeah, they're killing it. I think Instagram is doing, they really bid into to Snapchat, like with their, how they copied Snapchat, and then it really worked
I'm
because,
telling you.
yeah.
What do you think of channels like a Clubhouse? There's no video, there's audio, but it's a more interactive audio. So what do you
Yeah.
think of that? Where do you think that's going?
Yeah, I like Clubhouse. I'm on it and I'm learning. What I like about it is there's insider club type feeling. There's being invited in. Um, I'm not using it quite as much yet.
Hmm.
'Cause I also like I kind of take time. Sometimes I'll just take a chunk of time and just start going through all the apps again to you guys spend time on them a little bit. It's
Hmm.
hard to understand them if you don't spend any time on them. Um, so for me, I'm spending time on Clubhouse, observing, watching, but I'm not in what I'm doing. I'm not sort of focused on it
Hmm.
100% yet. My community isn't 100% on there yet,
I see.
but I love
Yeah.
it. I love watching it. And by the way, in terms of audio, it is huge. I read another stat I'm not going to repeat. No, it was 53,000 books were put on audio. It was a Globe and Mail article a little while ago that was talking about the boom of audiobooks and podcasting.
Hmm.
It's massive, and it's growing all the time.
Hmm.
And I also read that there's something like
I consume a lot of content on audiobooks as well. So I'm a big one of the my consumption on our content is especially books. I don't consume social media, but I consume a lot of those audiobooks.
yeah, me too. I listen to audiobooks every day, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Interesting. Interesting. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so yeah, podcasting is huge. And then what I was saying to you a little earlier too is that we can create, if you have those pillars of content that you're creating a video like what we're doing today.
Hmm.
People might not be able to watch it on YouTube because they're busy or they're grocery shopping or whatever, but you can just strip that audio,
Yeah.
put that into a podcast, into an app that spreads it across all the podcasting networks.
Hmm.
Boom, now you've got a show on Spotify, you've got a show on Apple, you've got a show on an Apple podcast, you've got, everywhere else. And it drives people back to your YouTube channel
Yeah.
and your Facebook. So, by the way, of course, Facebook owns Instagram, to come back on that point. So it's like I see it as one and the same. And boy, the back end is sure integrated now, eh?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram.
Hmm.
Now that the business suite is
Yeah.
like
It's
complete,
all tied. Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I took your advice. Thanks for giving me advice last time we talked. That you gave me this Anchor something the website
Anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm. So I posted a couple just for the trial. The audio piece of the video, and it's very easy. It pushes to all the podcasts, and it's very easy to get a word out that way. I think it's very convenient.
Yeah, when I saw, I think it was last year or the year before when they were bought out by Spotify, I thought, oh, okay, this ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I had heard about them a while ago and it really worked well. Yeah, it might even have a Canadian link. It might even be I think there might be a Canadian connection to Anchor FM.
Possible. So let's get back to a business on
Yes.
a work benefit you saw. It's video marketing is a big. We already we talk about it. Video in the marketing side. For you to get an effectively message across, nothing better than a video. But what other areas you find that business leaders are using videos to get ahead? Is it a customer service side of things, or is it a product explanation side of things, or is it also just follow up with the client, retention side of things? Where area you see the business leaders are using effectively video?
Well, I see it especially with things that you can reproduce. So if we take a good video one time on how to install something, on how to build something, then you don't have to do it again. You refer everybody back to the video, and that I'm finding more and more things like that happening. So hey, let's not have to retrain in person. Or you do the in-person stuff, send them off to do the homework, which is through the video, which is pre-produced and lives on a website somewhere. And then let's bring them back for questions, instead of trying to do everything. There's that kind of thing that we're doing. More and more, though, for me, the interesting thing that a leader would have to consider is, how do you mix your personal brand with your business brand, or several businesses? Like, how do I do that? Like, where does Richard end and RFP Media begin? And how do I, as CEO of my company, bring my friends to understand what I'm doing as a business, but also my business to understand I'm a human? It's not just this cold corporate thing that.
So how do you do that?
I've recently rebranded. No, really, I really did. And what I decided to do, Cardone is an example, Gary, Tim Ferriss. I started watching. I mean, I've been watching these guys for a long time, and I realized their name is, like, at the end of the day,
their personal brand is much bigger.
Exactly. And to approach who I am, if you're going to be a transparent, Ray Dalio is my biggest hero of them all.
Great guy. Yep.
And the radical transparency and truthfulness anchor principle of what he's doing is kind of the key. So basically, when I realized that you're going to be a public person, whether you like it or not, especially as a leader, why not just go all in? I have nothing to hide. So why not just go in with my name? That will stay with me. If I take other opportunities, I can build my personal brand around the interest. Like, so I have a new show called Richard Fortin Presents. And in that, I'm talking about the entertainment industry and arts, because those are the clients I'm trying to attract, and they're the people I want to talk to. So now if I have a show called Richard Fortin Presents, Gurmeet the artist, now this is interesting for you, because now you get to tap into my audience to sell your art or show your art or tell your story, bring value to our relationship in a field that I'm already aligned with my business. So I just decided recently, I hadn't done this. Like, for years, I was doing RFP Media, just the company stuff, and I was the leader of the company. And I'm on I have 2 in the bank, so I'm recording episode 5 after we hang up this afternoon. So I'm just restarting, having decided that my name would be this vlog type behind the scenes of what's happening at the business to grow my personal brand. So that's, I think, what I've learned in my own experience. And that's the other thing. I don't give advice that I don't take.
You gotta be able to practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach, Richard.
Yeah.
So if I was finding that I was wanting to say that, at the end of the day, and this comes back to our Steve Jobs question, Steve Jobs had the personality, the mind, that you still need a leader, and you still need a mascot. You still need somebody to put their face on that message
Mhm.
And guess what? The truer, more authentic voice will stick. So why not it be your leader?
Yeah.
And why not call it that? Call it, you know,
Mhm.
call it that. You know, if you're okay with being transparent, if there's reasons why you might not want to do that, which there are always good reasons too, why you might want to create a, a veil.
Mhm.
That's a different situation. But what I'm finding more and more, all in
Yeah.
personal brand,
Transparent.
talking about your business.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the areas I want to talk to you, and I wish there was more video in this area that there is, and I think a lot of business owner listening to our discussion, they will agree, and they know how big the problem is. When people talking about an HR side, onboarding new staff or letting go of staff, when you're scaling up a business, you bring in a new staff in, the staff exiting your company, the talent's going with them. A lot of know-hows, exit your company when staff leaves. You bring in a new staff, it's a challenge to bring them up to speed, what's happening in a company. You need to train these people. And I believe the video is a great asset in that, you can record what your staff is doing, but when they're no longer with the company, you bring in a new staff. What's easier than for them to watch some videos? Hey, this is how we used to do. This is how we were doing this stuff, and that will bring them, the time when they bring new staff and get them up to speed. They will shorten the time period. That's a lot of risk for any business leader to hiring somebody and bringing them up to speed. Now you're wasting so much time in between.
So true.
If you can speed that up, I mean, that opens opportunity for you to hire very fast and scale up your business very fast. And I wish a lot of business leaders were looking into that and recording a lot of videos with their staff, how they're running their company, and use that knowledge when they're growing the company and the new staff coming on board. What are your thoughts, sir? Are you guys doing something in that area, or what do you thought? What do
Definitely.
you think? Can people use help from you on that area?
Definitely. That's very important and excellent point. And I totally agree with it. One way to make it happen so it's not overwhelming, so you don't have to plan it all ahead and then script these things and try to create these staff videos. Do you know Twitch at all?
I heard of it. I haven't used
Yeah.
it, but I heard
So
of it. Yeah.
Twitch has got bought out by Amazon, a few years ago for it's basically the gamers platform. It's
Yeah.
live stream gaming was how it really got its, start. Now, if you go on Twitch today, it's live streaming. I mean, you could watch people doing just about anything. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
from video games, chat. You and I chatting here. We could be live streaming this, not just recording it onto YouTube, but we could be going live to Twitch, live to YouTube, live to Facebook. So that's the next step. Yes, you can create videos and have them sort of in the can and send new recruits to do that. I totally
Mhm.
agree with that. Lots of value there. And for some things, that's the way you would want to do it. But if you really want to create a culture where everybody feels they know you,
Mhm.
if you had a morning call that's a live stream from your desk for 10 minutes, that's the team meeting, virtual meeting, live streamed every day at 9 a.m. with the president who's there to
Mhm.
answer questions. It doesn't have to be him talking every day for 5 minutes. Could be you could set a schedule that we get to learn about every different department every day, and we get an update from each. If we get 4 updates a week, if you do 4 calls a week for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just to keep everybody on the same page. But again, this is where that studio and that easy turnkey infrastructure, once you've done it once, 2 times,
Mhm.
now you realize, holy moly, I have a channel that I turn on when I want, how I want, that goes to everybody who wants to tune in
Mhm. Yeah.
in real time. And all I have to do is hit record. That gets recorded. And if you couldn't make the 9 a.m. meeting and you're available at 11 a.m., you get the recording as soon as we're done. You get the recording in your inbox. And now you have the update from the company for that day. So now the president doesn't have to go write a bunch of or plan a bunch of videos. He
Mhm.
knows that every day he's doing actually a little training video, and every day he gets to inform his corporate culture by doing this quick little live stream. And
Nice.
by the way, it's scalable. If you do a live stream with me, we're 1-to-1 right now, right?
Mhm.
You do all the same amount of work,
Yeah.
and you have people, you have 50 people watching, what does it change for you?
Yeah. Nothing. Same
Nothing.
thing.
So
Same
why
effort,
not?
same time.
Exactly. So why not do to train to bring everybody on to keep people, because it's not just bringing them up to speed with what your core culture is, it's
Yeah.
keeping them there.
Yeah.
And then crisis happens, and now you need to come up with a I need to broadcast to my, but if you're broadcasting all the time, and this is where we go from like into kind of a, it seems like, oh, this is going to take over my life, but it's the opposite. If you just put it in a box and you say, I'm live streaming to my audience, which is my staff in this case,
Mhm.
3 times a week, I bet you those become super, super, super informative, and those touch points. And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, we do it on, you raise your hand, ask a question. Maybe they don't have courage to ask in front of everybody, but they can send you a personal note. That's where I see what we've experienced leapfrogging now,
Mhm.
because it won't take long for you to figure that out and to start doing those calls and record them, and then you have a database date by date of like, and I'd like you to look at our company calls for the last month, and
Yeah.
for them it might be like a binge watch on Netflix, and for
Mhm.
2-3 hours they watch your updates, but they get to see, if that was what you wanted to do. So
Yeah.
that's where we get really efficient.
Well, we do team meetings daily basis, like a morning meetings, end of the day meetings. Like we have a do team meetings every day. So you can simply broadcast those team meetings, what's happening on the teams, and you could interesting. But communicating to one person or communicating to 50 people, same amount of effort. You just expanding your reach now to instead of one person to 50 people.
You're just leveraging that technology that's
Interesting.
affordable and in your living room right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, when you get even to do multi-camera, these things, like, it's all really accessible.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, it blows my mind when we think that YouTube didn't exist 15 years ago.
Uh,
Like, imagine where we're going to be in another 15.
yeah.
So what right now we're talking about as being like, oh, here, it's coming. It's actually already there. Now it's
Technology is
just,
already there. Technology
yeah,
is.
the technology is there now. And now these meetings, the norm of meeting like this is there. That's new.
Yeah.
So now it's like, who's going to really, in terms of being able to connect the dots as a business, is who's really going to like go all in and just realize that your message is what people perceive, invest in it daily, and control the message. Because sticking
Mhm.
your hand in the sand probably won't help you in the long run if there is a crisis.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, YouTube, evolved so much, and the videos, 15 years, that's a big, if you look at what we did 15 years ago, there was not any videos on YouTube, but now in 15 years, everything's on YouTube. So there's so much video content going on online now, as you mentioned, Richard. What do you think the competition is? To grab that attention, you gotta be creative. You gotta be authentic. You gotta be transparent. There's so many different. Does that mean people have to learn all these skills? Where do people go? It's a personal development that people have to go through in order for this video to get attention, because everybody's fighting for the same attention that they're trying to grab, right?
But it's bringing value. Like, look at, even when I um, heard from you and I looked into what you were doing and seeing what you were doing, you brought value. That I was interested in doing your show because I watched your shows. I watched what you were doing. I saw how you were doing this. Oh, this is interesting how this guy's picking up on that and what he's doing. And then he's brought me value. Like, you brought me value without knowing it, without knowing me. And then by reaching out, you know how that worked. And now here we are, and we don't know where it's going to lead. But if you didn't have that catalyst, what was the catalyst for change? What was
Mm-hmm.
the catalyst for the conversation? Was that you have this show you're producing.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a conversation we wouldn't be having. And as you meet people you want to do business with, they will see value in what you're doing because you're asking good questions, you're informed, you know what you're doing, you know who your target audience is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you keep bringing value, it's inevitable.
I
It's
see.
inevitable that over time, if you're consistent,
Mm-hmm.
people will start saying, "Oh, that
Mm-hmm.
helps," and then it's word
Right.
of mouth. It's the old word of mouth thing. You're at a dinner, you're at this, and oh, this guy's actually really good. You should listen to him when you're doing this, or you know.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
I
Ah,
forget. I forget. Just one thought. Joe Rogan did something like 1,000 shows.
on Spotify, right? He was offered a contract on
Yeah,
Spotify.
he got millions for that. But I'm talking about before he was like before he was Joe Rogan and experienced Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
He produced like 1,000 shows that weren't, you know, he wasn't Joe Rogan yet. My point is, could you like it takes a lot to produce a
Yeah,
thousand
yeah,
shows.
yeah.
It's repeat, it's repeat, it's repeat. But then it works.
But it's a commitment, consistency over time, and efforts, right? So I think that's a lot of people I see that they give up on this. It demands time from you ongoing basis. You got to be able to commit it to keep adding new content, and also understanding that another value is changing. You know what people perceive value today, it may not be. It's a different value. So if you're doing before COVID, you gotta have a content that's people's in the mind. They're thinking about COVID, so you gotta produce content that is making sense to people.
Exactly. Context is everything. What do they say? Content is king, context is God,
Wow,
right? Content is
interesting.
king, context is God. Because think of this, like I did a job for an Aboriginal, a First Nations artist, shot a
Okay.
video. In the video, there was like this grieving scene with an older woman who was flashing back. We shot this video in March. Today, he's coming out with his album in a couple weeks and he wants to release this song with this video. Well, a lot's happened in the Indigenous community in the last 2 weeks that
Wow. Yeah.
changes the whole way that video is going to be perceived when it comes out from when it was shot is
Hmm.
completely different. And I'm going, do we need to reshoot it? Because the context is different.
It's changed for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, in the last it changed like this, right? Because of 215
Yeah.
in Kamloops there.
Hmm.
Tragedy. But my point is, this is going to happen in business.
All
This
the
is the
time.
name of the game. This is what happens. So you might as well set up a system that changes with the time, you know,
Hmm.
and is adapt. That's why live streaming, I'm like as much as we can do stuff in the can, everything is changing fast. So having a live stream element and getting the idea that hey, everything's going to be kind of live
Hmm.
as especially as broadband, like as the as the what is it 5G and
Yeah.
it's going to get faster and faster.
Yeah. If you got a live stream studio set up, it's the fastest coming up thoughts in your mind. All you have to do is a record button and get the thoughts up.
Right. And then I think you catch magic. I think you catch the lightning when it's happening. It's not so much like you're scripting this stuff.
Yeah. It's all
Somebody's gonna,
raw. It's all raw.
it's going to be raw. And that's why people like it.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think that's what I think. You
Yeah.
also look at the best shows. Like if you look at late night TV and everything, like the reason it was interesting is because what did Letterman start with? Jokes about what? Current affairs.
Hmm.
Because there's always a new Bill Clinton joke. There
Yeah.
was always a new like there's to be relevant night after night after night and build that audience that
Hmm.
loves you and laughs with you and cries with you and goes through your process with you. You current affairs always changing, always interesting, and
Hmm.
you can always be relevant. And it also you hack culture, right? So if now indigenous issues are really top of mind for people and we shot this video a month ago that now has even more power because it's a good story. It's a
Hmm.
story of how somebody overcame that tragedy.
Hmm.
Now I didn't know that would be an actual important thing to talk about in June 2021 when we shot this in March 2021.
Hmm.
But now because I'm able to adapt and I'm doing it anyway, boom, we can change, we can talk about the context in a different way. And now I don't have to scrap that video. I can just tweak it to be even more sensitive to the context. And maybe it actually strikes more of a chord
Than even before. Yeah.
than it did before, for sure. So you see guys like The Rock, really successful entertainers.
Mhm.
How do they get those massive audiences? Is they're always talking about something that's happening in pop culture. The king of that is like Will Smith. If you look
Mhm.
at Will Smith, how he's transformed as an entertainer, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then he did the big movies. Will Smith is a massive TikTok star now and a YouTube guy doing Instagram. Like he's doing these little short little media, but he's huge. Like it works. And then he's getting these guys exercising, like I saw Dr. Dre was I'm joining Will Smith's challenge to get fit, or whatever. But the
Yeah.
reason Will Smith is now known to a whole new generation of people isn't because of Fresh Prince of the Bel Air, isn't because of Muhammad Ali and all the movies, the big movies he played. It's because he's hilarious on TikTok.
Yeah. Sense of humor. It's entertaining.
Right, but he also has come like he's not he's every day. There's a new clip of Will Smith doing something, And to me that's that innovative like, oh, he made the switch,
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
that the big movie is going to make you famous to consistent, clever,
Mhm.
short, pithy, relevant stuff. And then he's saying, tagging The Rock, and then The Rock
Yeah.
shares that quick, and then that hits an audience that no movie could ever hit because
Yeah.
they're hitting millions of people.
When they're building big audience, so when the movie does come out next time, they have an audience already there. They're gonna watch the movie.
Exactly. It's the same in the music business when you look at what labels used to pay an artist up front so that they could own the rights, so they can recoup their money, and then the one hit would pay for the 10 misses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there ain't a label that's going to do that anymore because that's not how they do it. Now they make sure you have the audience. Once you have the audience and they know you're doing what you're doing, then they'll help you with distribution
Yeah.
once they get their cut.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not gonna give you an advance.
Yeah.
There's too many people doing it for free,
Yes.
right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. So where you see RFP Media going in the next few months or next year? Where you think your business is what's in store for you? The next years?
So
What's the plan looks like?
it's a step-by-step process. So the first process to get great audio for me was to get great audio. And so behind me here in this door here is the recording studio I have.
Okay.
And that's to do voiceover work. So I have the studio, I have the office space, I have a place where my crew gets together, gathers our equipment, and goes out. I've been waiting. Can you believe this? These. I ordered a vehicle in September, a van.
Yeah.
And because of the switchers, there's a part missing for all the vehicles right now. What is it? The converter, and all
Okay.
these vehicles are held up. So I have a van. I ordered in September. It's still not arrived because they're waiting for one part missing that
see.
Ford can't. But the next stage for me is I'm getting, I have my in studio set up, and then I have my van where I can come on site to do what we can do anywhere. And that
See.
opens me up to be in markets like Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal. So I want to have my in-house little setup here for our own stuff and recruit and build our team. But I want to be on the road, and I want to be able to meet people where they are as well. So the next step for me is outfitting and customizing these plumbers van that are actually these production studios on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Show up, say you're having an event, a concert, a launch of a book, anything that you want, sort of your own media customized. We can show up, a small team, capture everything, make it a live stream, but also recut it so that you have that content in the pipeline to feed you for a while, based on whatever you're doing. So it's about mobility next.
Mm-hmm.
It was first to get my base.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's about being able to go out and take all that equipment out on site. So that's in the short term, and then the sky's the limit. I really believe communication is the key. Like I saw this quote, I saw Kanye West talking about, I love Lady Gaga, her music and everything, but she is the main sponsor. She's the main spokesperson for Polaroid. Like Polaroid paid her like however much they would pay her for Lady Gaga to be. Now he says, Kanye West, what does Lady Gaga know about cameras?
Yeah.
Nothing. She doesn't need to know anything about cameras because what she knows is how to get the audience, that the massive audience she has, to understand why Polaroid does what it does. And that's why Lady Gaga is the one that Polaroid will invest millions of dollars in order to get her to, to communicate that message. So for me, I think like Kanye and Lady Gaga, like the sky's the limit when you know how to communicate.
Yeah.
You have what everybody wants, which is attention.
I mean, every business leader, I wish they, I'm sure they know that, business is not about, what I build, what I sell, what we, service we provide or product we sell. Every business is all about people and communication. If you can get handle on those two things, people and communication, you could do good in a business, because everything is in a business is about these two.
Right. And the other thing I love to think about is everybody learns differently. So what works for me, my Gary V guy might be the most annoying guy, and you could never imagine listening to 5 minutes of that guy talking. He's way too obnoxious and abrasive. But I love it. So what these business leaders need to do is put themselves out there, because we all have different likes and we have to be willing to like put ourselves out there, because our tribe will find us.
Yeah.
If we put our voice out there.
And you deliver a lot of value to people as well. People who are trying to make a decision, especially a business leader who, thinking about when getting into video or is a little bit hesitant. I'm hoping that they will watch, or they will listen to our discussion today and inspire them somehow that they can start their, process somewhere, or they can take a first step towards it. Listen, maybe I'm going to do, have some small video I put on some sort of, Instagram or YouTube or something. They can start somewhere. They can watch our video and they can see, hey, listen, if they can do it, I can do it as well, and they can start a journey. But I can tell you, don't underestimate that. It's when you're doing a podcast like what, it's a more of your learning than somebody else doing. I take away from every podcast I do a lot more than somebody else can. I learn from every little podcast there.
They say if you want to learn something well, you should teach it.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
So I think that's kind of what you're saying,
Yeah, beautiful, good stuff. Very interesting. So where can people find you? How can they reach out to you? Can they connect with you if they want to learn more about video, or they want to take
Sure,
your
I appreciate that very much. So you can find me on all the socials, of course, at RFPmedia. And I'd love for you to come say hi on any of the channels. I'm on all of them.
Definitely.
At RFP Media, I've kept it consistent with everything. My name is Richard Fortin, so I do have this Richard Fortin Presents show that now I'm just getting started. So that's happening, and with that, it's fun too. I'm practicing what I preach. I'm showing up. I'm doing an interview right next here with somebody who's in the entertainment business, because that's what I want to teach. So I'm having them come on, teach me, show me how to do things, and boom, next thing you know, who knows where it'll go.
And we send this videos to all of our contacts, and I'll make sure that we include a link to your show as well, to your website as well, and to your social media channels as well. People can simply click a link and they can reach out to you that way.
That's amazing. Thank you for taking the time and for doing this. And I really appreciate your organization in getting and showing me how somebody you didn't even know, to be honest, before could led me down a rabbit hole to learn a lot about what you were doing by the way you approached us having this conversation. You taught me that.
Thank you.
And that's what impressed me, actually. And that's why I responded. And I was quite excited to see what you were doing. That's why it works. Like what you did with me is what I would want to tell people why they need to do exactly what you did. Reach out, be personal. You did all the right stuff. So I have no doubt you're going to be going places with this. I think you're really on the right path.
Thank you. And I'll
build your studio.
I'm going to need your help. We definitely got to do that. As soon as the government allows you to open office, that's going to be one of the steps. So definitely. And we can record that building a studio, the whole video, and then we can share that with the people as well. Hey, this is what you got to do to build a studio.
For sure.
It's interesting. Thank you so much for your time, Richard.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.